like the advice I give someone when they're interviewing for a job is come up with 3 qualities that you want them to remember about you.
Yeah.
Like, don't go into the interview trying to do these star format responses. Don't try to have the perfect answer to everything. Just think every answer, I want them to know X, Y, and Z, that I am smart, that I'm kind and collaborative, and that I'm organized. And
Yeah.
I would, no matter what the question is, I'm going to shoehorn those characteristics so that that's what they remember about David. So maybe it's the same thing as if you're dating. I want this woman to know that I am kind, smart, and an exceptional lover. And so in every answer that we talk about, what do you want for dinner? Well, I worry about the well-being of the chicken.
Yeah.
But it's low fat, which is good, which is a smart decision. And, I love breasts. How do you?
I thought we'd start off with a question today.
Okay.
I've been pondering this topic for a while and try to figure out how to approach it. But I want to start with a question. When is the last time you've been in a situation and you said, you know what? I want to say something, but I probably shouldn't.
About 30 minutes ago.
Did you say it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
My perception of you is that you tend to say a lot that's on your mind. And you probably do it more via your multiple social media channels than maybe you do in person.
Okay. Yes, that's probably true. I think the instance that I was thinking about was with my wife.
Yeah.
And I just thinking that I'd like to say what I want. Yeah.
I was gonna say, is now one of those times when you like to share over social media something you wouldn't share directly to your wife?
I showed restraint at dinner, and now I'd like to let it air out. I do. I will say, I do think social media is a helpful outlet. I think I probably do. I think compared to the average person, I probably overexpress.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
I am. It is something I work on, and it is very situationally dependent. I too have found, and I think I've joked about this on the show before, that my wife will comment that I will share more about my thoughts and feelings about things here.
Yeah.
Than I sometimes do when I'm interacting with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing I've appreciated about doing this show, because I think she's right. I don't think she's right. And doing this for the past, year and a half or so, I think has helped me force myself to do it more in life. Like, hey, just because, there's some things I'm not going to say and never going to say. And there are other things I just don't.
Yeah.
And there's not a reason to monitor that.
I think, yeah. Well, now you got me thinking about it, because what I like about the podcasting thing is I feel like because we're going to talk about something, and I am forced to sort of, I'm forced to like kind of get my ideas evaluated by you. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to have to process through whatever I think about the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're kind of forced to listen to me.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I talked to Allison the way that I talked to you, she would lose interest immediately and move on. That's the other variable here is, maybe it's that someone's listening to me, and I have a captured audience for an hour.
Well, I think that's a great segue. What I'm doing when I'm listening to you is called impression management, Dave.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm not actually listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful.
That's the topic of our show today. Impression management.
Okay. You do a great, spectacular job.
No, I'm just kidding. That is the topic of our show today. But I think similar to you, there are a lot of topics that we talk about that, certainly some people in my life, including my wife Jen at times, are interested in. And then there are other times when people in my life probably placate a conversation with me, um, and don't actually care about what's going on. And then sometimes you start to see that, and or I start to see that, like, oh shit, I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm interested in having this type of conversation, and the other person is, or
And
people are clearly not.
I can feel that they're not into it.
Right. And that's they shouldn't necessarily be. This is not,
Yeah.
something that's going to interest everyone. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think, yeah, what I was saying, I probably do it more than you. I think historically, and this is also why I wanted to talk about this topic. Historically, this is something I was very aware of, kind of the impression that other people would have of me.
Wait, hold on. You think that you manage your impression more than I do?
I think so.
I think you do not.
Why?
I think the difference. Well, I'm trying to think. There's probably two different things. There's the podcast version of us, and then there's like what I see with you at work.
Yeah.
I think on podcast, I think we manage impressions the same.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the difference is, I think that like I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. I think that I am more comfortable saying bombastic things than you maybe are.
Yeah.
But I think I'm equally intentional about saying those. Like, I think it's just a level of tolerance for how we want to be perceived. Is that exactly what impression management is?
That's exactly what impression management is.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not that I'm doing it like, but I'm making the impression I want to make. Like, that's the character that I would like to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. In that situation, but I want to get into this more. This is actually one of the topics that we'll talk about. So I'm going to put a pin in this for a second, and we'll talk later about the situations in which we find ourselves to engage in this, and in which people broadly tend to engage in this. But just to make sure we're kind of talking about the same topic and everyone else understands, I have a definition here on my other screen. When I'm talking about impression management, I'm talking about the conscious and unconscious processes of influencing how others perceive us. So sometimes we do these things consciously, and sometimes we're doing them subconsciously. I said unconscious. I meant to say subconscious. If you're unconscious, you're probably not doing much of anything. That I remember that from I had a psychology professor in undergrad, and that was like his pet peeve, and I'll never forget that. He goes, if you're unconscious, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything unconsciously, you're doing it subconsciously. So his anger, his irrational anger about this situation has stayed with me for 20 years.
That's very good.
And the things that, going back to the definition, the things that we can be trying to manage, it's not just our behavior or what we say. It can be our appearance. It can be what we kind of disclose to people about ourselves. So there's these different ways in which we can manage how the world around us sees us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think about it because this is a topic I'm sure you talk a lot about when you're working with leaders. I know I talk a lot about this topic when I'm working with leaders who may struggle in some dimension here. And I will oftentimes talk about, especially if you're higher level, kind of the on-stage and off-stage versions of yourself. Like the on-stage version, at times there's usually at least a little bit of impression management going on there. And the offstage, maybe there's less.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, there's always some level of that. And for others, there can be a clear delineation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's a topic I hear a lot about. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is, in addition to it being personal, Like this is something historically, as you know, from a little kid on, that I've been a bit more focused on. I wouldn't have been able to verbalize it this way, but something I was hyper aware of. And then two, I had two conversations last week with leaders that I work with, and the hour for both of them was focused solely on impression management.
Mhm.
So I wanted to bring it up today with you to talk a little bit more about it. I think we both have these experiences, both personally and in our work, and then share with others, what is it? Is it good or is it bad?
Mhm.
And how to navigate those times when we're unsure what to do and how we want to come across to the people or person in front of us.
Yeah, I think the is it good or is it bad is an interesting question because when I think about I am aware as you're talking about it, I am thinking, and it's like obviously my ego tied to it, which is I think I manage a lot of I do a lot of impression management, but I don't view it as being a bad thing in the way that I would view it if we were talking about, someone that's being bullied at school,
Right.
right? Like there is one kind of impression management, which is I am insecure and I am hoping to show up as a cool kid, or I'm insecure at work and I'm hoping to show up as confident or composed or expertise or whatever. Right. This like idea that I'm going to put on a mask to try and somehow fool people versus impression management from from a position of power, which is I would like to control how the people around me see me. And I'm going to do that intentionally. And it's not coming from a place of insecurity, but it's
Yeah.
coming from a place of intentionality. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's the same thing, but the mechanism behind it is very different.
Right. Right. And I framed it up somewhat jokingly as good or bad.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not necessarily either of those things.
Hmm.
It just is.
Hmm.
And I think,
Right.
it comes from a good place. Again, we've talked a lot on this show about, you know, the we are social creatures. And a lot of our social conventions, even across cultures, although they can certainly be different across cultures and are, but there's this desire to feel like you're part of something. You're
Hmm.
part of a group.
Hmm.
And impression management is something evolutionarily that grew out of that need to be part of a group of people, if nothing else than for safety and health.
Right. Right. Never thought about it that way, but yeah, definitely.
Right. So it comes from a place, a good place, and there are certainly benefits to it. Um, and we'll talk about those in a second. And also, there's some downsides to it,
Hmm.
both on
Hmm.
the doing it too much
Hmm.
and then sometimes not doing it enough.
Hmm.
Um, but when I think of the positives, it's the social component that is most resonant to me. It's like we engage in impression management. We try to make ourselves come across in many situations in a way that we think is um is positive to the other group or individuals that we're interacting with. We want to feel like we're part of a group, and that's why we do it.
Yes, but not always. And correct me if I have it wrong, but not always that we want to come across as positive. You could impression manage and try to come across as a jerk, or impression manage and try to manage people thinking that you're
Right.
creative or that you're whatever a stoic or you're right. It could be it's just intentionally managing how people see you.
It's intentionally managing how people see you in order for them to evaluate you in a way that you want to be evaluated.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's a better way of saying it than it just always having a positive
Yeah.
valence to it. Um, yeah, it's trying to massage the situation and the interaction so that you have more control.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Um, but again, it has a lot of benefits. It can have benefits to you, like right, work, social situations, all those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and again, I think most of us do it, with some frequency in all the
Yeah.
different aspects of our lives, and it
Yeah.
can be helpful
Yeah.
to establish and maintain relationships. So I think that's the primary upside that comes to mind when I think about it.
Mhm. Yeah,
What
I
else?
think
What else comes to mind for you?
well, what I was thinking about is, if you I mean, to me, it's like the, it's like what do you call it? It's like the big boss, or like when you're playing a video game, it's like the final boss
Oh yeah.
in, social and emotional intelligence, right? Like, if you look at, like, how we measure social emotional intelligence, you're looking at how well do you understand yourself, how well do you understand others, and then how well can you control your own behavior, and then more importantly, how well can you control other people and how they
Hmm.
interact with you?
Hmm.
Like, that's like the final boss. And so I feel like this idea of impression management, if you can do it intentionally and it has the impact you're looking for, I feel like it's a very important skill.
Yep. Yeah.
If you
Completely
suck
agree.
at it, it's a real I mean, if you're trying to do it and not doing it well, then I think it's a real problem,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, you're right. I think people who probably do it best are people who are more socially and emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
People who may theoretically understand the need to do it,
Mhm.
but don't do it very well,
Mhm.
may struggle a bit more on that social and emotional intelligence index.
Mhm.
The other thing that came to mind for me, in addition to just social relationships, is professionally. Right there, there's that saying, "Fake it till you make it,"
Mhm.
and you could take that a couple of different ways. But one way you could take it is, you know, you could demonstrate some level of ability, or you could communicate some level of ability that may not 100% align with your actual ability. Maybe you're trying to sell a product, right? If you're a salesperson or you're starting a new business or whatever it might be, and you're trying to communicate that you're able to sell this product or do this thing really well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And all of the things that come with impression management, the confidence that you may demonstrate, something like that. That's you're managing how other people
Yeah.
see you. Do they see you as a confident, resourceful person who's going to follow through on what you're saying that you can do?
Mhm.
Whenever you're selling
Mhm.
yourself, that's also there's usually some impression management
Mhm.
going on
Mhm.
there too.
Yeah, you're selling me on it. So when is it not good? Like, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, if you moved through the world and you thought that you're always on stage, wouldn't you perform better? Like, you'd be better at work, you'd be better if you can, right? If you are always just thoughtful about what you say, how you interact, how you behave, what's the downside?
Well, the downside to me is manipulation.
I'll say more about that. You think it's manipulation?
Well, I think it can be. So in that example that I just gave, if if you're selling a product to me and your product is 90% there, and by the time that I'm going to get it, it'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? That's trying to make that positive impression and get to a yes.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know what the exact definition of manipulation would be in this situation, but let's say your product is in a theoretical space. You have
Mhm.
nothing to actually show outside of some demo.
Yeah.
You're saying that you can get this thing done, but really what you plan on doing is taking my money and then not delivering.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're managing how I see you, so you're still engaging in impression management,
Yes.
but you're trying to manipulate me to an end
Yeah.
that that you're unable to deliver.
Yeah. Like, so that line is like the important line, is when does it become disingenuous,
Right.
right? Where you're now, I mean, it's gonna backfire, right? You're gonna really not my impression of you is going to go downhill dramatically
Correct.
if I find out that you're lying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Another thing, another downside of it is if you're constantly on stage. So let's say you go to work and maybe there are days or weeks where you have to turn off the volume on some characteristic that is not part of your normal state.
Mhm.
When I'm working with leaders who are more introverted, we'll sometimes talk about, all right, we need to turn up the volume on your extroversion here
Mhm.
because you're facilitating a multi-day retreat
Mhm.
or something like that. And it's not where you like to be, but turn up the volume for a couple days. And then when that retreat is over, you know,
Yeah.
do whatever it is you need to do to take a couple deep breaths, calm down.
Yeah.
Um, but if you're in a situation where you find yourself having to be always at a level like that, and you can't take a deep breath or exhale, that can be pretty difficult to maintain.
Okay, can I be oppositional?
Whoa.
While you're
I guess.
while
Let me prepare myself for this.
while you're talking, I was just like brainstorming and finding myself just like having fun arguing the opposite. And here's the argument to the opposite, which is if I think about when we think about impression management, we think about it like we're putting on a mask that is not ours to be viewed positively. So if I'm going to go to a retreat, I'm going to go facilitate that retreat, and I'm going to be Mr. Whatever. I'm going to be like
Yep.
a little Tony Robbins and try and be super dynamic or whatever. And then the idea is that when you're done, you take off the mask and you can just be David when you're flying home and when you see your family. But if you think about impression management, it's not that the idea in a perfect world, it would be that you're putting on the face that fits best for the environment. So maybe I want to facilitate, and I think that being a little Tony Robbins is the best thing for that retreat. But on the flight home, isn't it still impression management? If I think about like, well, who do I want to be when I fly home? Like maybe the impression I would like to give is somebody that is relaxing and is watching a movie and is comfortable in his own skin. So he's wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And the impression management is I'm going to demonstrate for people that I don't care what I look like. And then maybe when I get home, if I think about like this way, this is like I can come in and I could manage my wife's impression of me by before she sees me naked doing 20 push-ups and trying to get a pump on so that I look super fit right before she sees me naked. And that would be managing the impression,
Okay.
but she would not want, I don't think, maybe she would, but she would not want to be in a relationship with a husband that was so insecure that he had to do 20 push-ups to get a pump on before he was viewed naked. She'd like to be married to a guy that feels connected enough to her that he's going to pee with the door open and never do push-ups. Right? So I'm managing like I'm being the person that I should be in that environment intentionally, but it doesn't mean that I can't be relaxed or comfortable. Does that argument make sense?
I think so. So I think what I hear you say is you're juxtaposing impression management with authenticity a little bit.
Yes, I think you can manage impressions and be authentic.
Correct. I think so too, but I think that they're two separate things. I think, authenticity, like impression management to me is, how is it different? Like authenticity is being yourself, and then I guess impression management again is that dial. Like how much or little of myself am I going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's the knob is authenticity, and impression management is turning it to some extent, right? So you're still being yourself. In my example, if you're a strong introvert, you're unlikely in that multi-day retreat to come across like Tony Robbins.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to come across or to look like Tony Robbins to be effective to facilitate a multi-day retreat. But there's likely still something going on, if nothing else, because that's just draining for the person.
I'd like to amend my position. Let me amend my position, okay?
Okay.
When I'm at home alone with Allison and we're watching a movie,
Okay.
what I would like to do is get an hour bed, and I want to lay down in the bed and I want to get the bag of Cheetos and I'd like to dump them across my chest. And then while I'm watching, I'd like to just stick my tongue out and pick up the Cheetos and eat like that. But that would not be good for my relationship. So I don't eat Cheetos.
I imagine not. Do you actually want to do that?
No, I was trying to think of the grossest
that's pretty gross. Like all of a sudden you get one and you're like, oh, this is a pretty hairy Cheeto.
I, I had in my mind, I had the visual of me dumping the cheers on my chest. And when I saw my picture in the screen, that I think, what if I licked it up? Yeah. Just, my point, my point is that I think even the truth is, even with my wife, I do have an awareness of how I'm being perceived, and I will adjust my behavior so that she finds me tolerable.
Hmm.
And so maybe the question is, as far as like how much impression management, maybe the question is like how many calories are being burned. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I need to get in bed with a dress shirt on and try and impress. I don't need to be Don Draper and try to impress Allison with how I look
Right.
all the time. But the question is like how hard is it for David to put the Cheetos in a bowl
Yeah.
versus putting it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I, I, and I think that's it. I think impression management is how you show up, and
Mhm.
authenticity is why or to what extent.
Okay.
Like why you show up. So it's more
Okay.
value laden. So the authenticity is oftentimes aligned with someone's values. I'm authentic to myself because I am behaving in a way that is in alignment to my values. And then impression management is the extent to which you adjust, sometimes slightly only,
Yeah.
maybe sometimes not at all,
Yeah.
the extent to which you allow those parts of you to show up. I think the downside is when either you do that all the time or you tamp down who you are
Mhm.
consistently,
Mhm.
or if you never do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, so how do you think people should judge the need to lean in more towards authenticity versus leaning more towards impression management?
Well, I think there has to be some sort of concept of like authentic impression management. And so
Mhm.
maybe we could I'll share like a personal example. I think for me, and we talked about this in the parenting episode, I want to instill values in my kids. And one of those values is being understanding, empathetic, and supportive.
Mhm.
Now, there are different ways to take that. I could take that as saying, oh, geez, I want to be helpful and supportive. And so, I am going to acknowledge the good of people. I'm going to acknowledge the effort that
Mhm.
people make, and I'm going to
Mhm.
focus on the positive.
Mhm.
I could also, because I want to be helpful, supportive, use what I think my empathetic nature at times to say, hey, you know what? I realize that you tried here, but it didn't work out very well.
Mhm.
Or let's try something else. If I'm being a parent or if I'm talking to a coworker, say provide some feedback that they may not want to hear. But I feel that if I don't say it, then no one's going to say it. And then they're going to go through life having never known that their performance in this one particular area is not that great.
Mhm.
And I know that for me, I would not want
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that's the example that comes to mind when you ask that question is I'm still being authentic to what is important to me and how I want to show up,
Yeah.
but I'm tailoring it to my audience a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's also probably dependent upon the nature of my relationship.
Mhm. Yeah. But I guess the key, and I'm thinking about this in particular with you, is I feel like you do a good job of the variable here that we're talking about, I think, is intentionality.
Yep.
Like you're deciding this is to what extent I'd like to manage impressions, and this is how I'd like to do it. Versus I think where people get in trouble is when they don't even think about, am I managing impressions or am I wanting to manage impressions? So I maybe avoid conflict. I don't know why I don't like conflict, but I'm not thinking about, well, I'm doing that because either I'm worried about hurting their feelings or I'm worried about being viewed negatively or I'm worried I'm going to be negatively appraised by somebody else or whatever. Whereas I feel like you do a good job of like deciding this is what's the right way of interacting. And I'm going to force myself to do what I think is right. And I'll manage impressions within that, but I'm going
Yeah.
to operate in alignment with what I know is the right answer.
Right. And that's what I in the very recent past, I've tried to do, but historically in my life, that was not the case.
Mhm.
Yeah, fairly conflict avoidant.
Yeah. What did you do, like, an ayahuasca trip or something? When did you just, like, decide, "I'm gonna do this differently"? 'Cause I really in the time that I've known you, I feel like the last year and a
Okay.
half, you've made, like, an intentional shift there.
Well, I think it was partly just because all the things that we would talk to people, in talking to people about the downsides of being hyper aware of how you come across and only wanting to come across in a positive light. It's like, oh, well, I feel like people should know these things, but I'm
Mhm,
not going to tell them because that's uncomfortable for me.
mhm,
So first, I'm just thinking, all right, well, how is this going to affect me?
mhm.
And secondly, then it becomes for me, I become resentful. So this person doesn't know that I'm frustrated or
Yeah,
upset, or I
yeah,
think that if it's a work thing, I think that they're delivering a bad outcome.
uh-huh, yeah,
So, and I'm not going to tell them. So then I become again frustrated and then resentful.
yeah,
And for me, what's really important in my life is relationships. I want to maintain relationships. And I think that one of the ways to do that is to be a bit more forthright.
mhm,
Now, I'd love to sit here and say I do that all the time still. I certainly do not.
mhm, mhm,
Um, but I think for me, that was it is I told people for a decade, I would coach them on how to do this. And then I'm like, well, you're not doing this.
yeah, yeah,
Why aren't you doing it?
yeah,
Do the same thing that you're suggesting others consider,
yeah,
which is not always easy. But um, so, yeah, certainly something that's new in the past couple of years for me.
mhm, mhm. I yeah, I think I think I sit more in the resentful spot.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it has a place. And then sometimes it's
Yeah,
fun because then there's a bit of that self-righteousness attached to it too.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What I guess can't they be more like me?
yeah. God, that's an interesting I've never thought about that, Rob, but that's an interesting wrinkle, which is there's a self-righteous rage or self-righteous resentment or self-righteous whatever judgment. That there's an allure to that.
Yep. Yep.
That's and I think I feel that.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean,
I think when you said that, that totally resonates that I would rather let it go, manage impressions, and then, like, what's the Lord of the Rings guy, my precious?
Gollum.
What's Gollum be like, "Oh, I got this little nugget of shit that I can talk or think." You know what I mean? That's
Right.
that
I
is
mean,
not flattering, but I think I have that problem.
I think a lot of people have that problem.
Yeah.
Um, I'm similar in that way. Like the self-righteous rage or frustration. I mean, it feels great,
Mhm.
right? Because you feel superior to someone.
Yeah.
Like you know it and they don't.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of people can hang out there.
Mhm.
I know I've worked with people before where that's part of what we talk about is there are multiple reasons why you're not engaging. And I think when I think of impression management and wanting to make a positive impression, that's usually the biggest downside is people who who do this a lot can sometimes struggle to be a bit more direct
Mhm.
or transparent in their communication.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's oftentimes what we talk about. And if I'm working with someone and they're more open with why they don't do it, that's come up a couple times.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about like when this happens or where this happens because I think that it happens again across parts of our life, um, but it can show up differently. So I have a couple of scenarios I want
Mhm.
to shoot your way, and I want you to tell me how people, or maybe even you, have managed impressions.
Okay.
So first one, romantic relationships. I think I don't know between that and workplace, especially early romantic relationships, where people manage impressions more.
Are you more managing your impression? Hold on, what phase of the romantic relationship are we in?
Let's say, so are do you think you're managing impressions more on a first date or your first week at work and a new job?
Oh, wow. First date. I think first date.
Yeah, I
What do you
that
think?
was my that was my inclination too, but barely. Like I went back and
Yeah.
forth in my head as I was preparing for the conversation. Like, what what where would that be more? And I think it's romantic relationships only
Mhm.
because I think I would place a higher value on wanting a romantic relationship to work. This
Yeah.
assumes that I you know like the woman enough to, you know,
Right.
want to continue on. But so I think that there's probably like a goal, and the goal of, you know, maintaining the relationship and maybe wanting to have, you know, a longer term connection with this person, maybe a little bit higher for me than it would be on the job side. But there's a lot of variables in there where that may not be the case.
I think I am, that's a really interesting question, and I think that could it be that you and I are more confident professionally than we are romantically? Like, if I got a new job, I I, like,
Mm,
I feel like you should hire me. That in my mind, I'm hireable. So I'm not worried about
yeah.
them being like, "Oh, David's an idiot." But if I went on a first date and I walked into a coffee shop, she'd be like, "He's bald, he's too short, I don't like his facial hair, he got shit in his teeth." Do you know what I mean? Like,
You're right.
I would have deep insecurities in the
I,
romantic, you know?
I think you're right. I did not think of that ahead of time, but you're right. I am probably more secure professionally.
Yeah,
If Jen and I were to get divorced tomorrow, and at
yeah,
some point I had a date,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it would be very difficult. And talking to my friends and coworkers who are experiencing this now, yeah, it's pretty similar. It's difficult.
yeah. I would
Yeah,
be it would be
I think you're
awful.
right.
It would be awful.
I
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, definitely romantic relationships, but in a way that I didn't think.
yeah,
So
yeah. I don't
so
know what I
how
would do. What?
how hypothetically, or going back to when you were, because you and Allison have been together for a long time.
You know, that's the thing. We have not I've never been on a first date what we think about as a first. I
Yeah,
met Alice when I was 19.
yeah. But you didn't date anyone before that?
I mean, in high school,
Right. I
and then
guess
I mean, I dated we weren't, like, exclusive for 6 months. So I had relationships, but none of them I would just meet somebody at a party. You know what I mean?
right.
I was never dating.
Dating. Yeah.
Did you?
No, I mean, I did a little bit, but you know, I started dating Jen when I was 22 or 23.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, college, I mean, there were people I dated, high school and college, but yeah, it wasn't like nothing super serious.
Yeah, I can tell you, if you said, "David, Allison divorced you, you have to date," I would immediately look to our work pool, I think, because that's the only relationships I have. I would be like, "Is anybody wanting to get divorced because I'm single?" Do you know what I mean?
Wait,
Because
so you're gonna start dating our coworkers?
I think I
Is
would
that
if I could, I would try to because but here's hear me out,
uh,
because they at
oh,
least
this is
know
great. Go
me
ahead.
because they at least know me versus it would be so hard to go on to Tinder or whatever and be like, "I gotta make a pro," that seems awful. And so I feel like they'd have to be someone that I worked with, or I would have to get another hobby,
But this assumes
you
that
know,
they know you, and that's a good thing.
with work. That's right. I I don't know what I would do, but that's where it would be like, who do I know now that's available, not start from scratch.
Right.
I think I couldn't do it.
I mean, I'm making fun of you, and I don't know that I would go to my coworkers first, but it would be like, yeah, I mean, because I think essentially what you're saying is, yeah, what's more like comfortable, like someone
Right.
who knows me and who I know,
Yeah.
as opposed to starting from scratch with someone, and I'm, you know, asking them about their favorite movies and, you know, their siblings and all. It just seems like a lot of work.
Right. And that's yeah, like what would your now that we're talking, it's kind of funny to think about it. You know, like the advice I give someone when they're interviewing for a job is come up with 3 qualities that you want them to remember about you.
Yeah.
Like, don't go into the interview trying to do these star format responses. Don't try to have the perfect answer to everything. Just think every answer, I want them to know X, Y, and Z, that I am smart, that I'm kind and collaborative, and that I'm organized. And
Yeah.
I would, no matter what the question is, I'm going to shoehorn those characteristics so that that's what they remember about David. So maybe it's the same thing as if you're dating. I want this woman to know that I am kind, smart, and an exceptional lover. And so, in, in every answer that we talk about, what do you want for dinner? Well, I worry about the well-being of the chicken,
Yeah.
but it's low fat, which is good, which is a smart decision. And I love breasts. How do you?
I don't think that's a recipe for a very long-standing relationship. Is,
I,
is that how you kept Allison?
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to think of how do you get the message across that this is who you are.
Yeah. Not. I think decidedly not that way is the answer to the question. Oh crap.
Well, how would you do it? What would be
I
your
mean,
strategy?
well, I have no idea because with Jenna, I mean, we were friends for a couple of years before we actually started dating, and so, um, I knew her really well, and she knew me really well. Both things that we liked about each other and things that we probably just tolerated about each other. Um, but yeah, it was just easier. It was, I think, comforting just to know more about what we were getting into, and at
Mhm,
first a bit awkward, but
mhm.
yeah, I wasn't engaging in much impression management. I would say if I was on a first date, yeah, the things I'd want to communicate were probably things or qualities I like about myself. But
Yeah,
that sounds a bit more like, yeah, well, this is what I think I bring to the table. But it assumes that that's important to the woman I'm speaking to.
how long would it take before you got sarcastic with her?
Oh, see, and that's the thing. It would happen pretty soon because I think that's something I don't hide very well.
Yeah,
Like that, and actually, and I think that like if I'm going to be with someone long term, which is probably the goal, and if they don't like that, then that's good for me to
yeah.
know
It's good to, yeah,
early on.
yeah.
So there is that. I'm not managing that as much, but I'm probably managing, yeah, like the things that I think are positive about me, and maybe downplaying the things that I don't care as much about
Mhm,
myself.
mhm.
So yeah, but I think there's a lot of impression management in dating, especially earlier on.
Yeah,
But I think the
yeah,
signs on the flip side, the sign or a sign of a very healthy relationship is not that you're never managing your impression, but that it happens over time a lot less frequently.
right. Yeah,
Like maybe I'm
yeah,
not, eating hairy Cheetos, but I'm being a lot more me
right.
in my home with
Yeah,
my wife, and I don't have a constant feeling of, all right, well, I have to keep this charade up, or else she's going to leave me.
right, right. That, yeah, I mean, that's an important part of it is like, how much distress is this causing you?
Yeah,
It should cause you, with your family, hopefully no distress,
yeah,
right?
or very little. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I have kids, so there's some distress.
yeah. Yeah, you have to manage impressions with them too, right? You want them to think dad's got it together, not
Well,
dad is unhinged.
yeah, and I think it's dependent upon the day. I was off with my kids today, so I think today might be an
Yeah,
unhinged day.
yeah.
Um, what about at work? We were talking about work. How does that show up at work? How does impression management show up in a workplace setting?
I think it varies. I think it varies, but I do think that it is. I think it's important. I'm trying to like think through this. I think it's really important that you have that you intentionally present yourself at work. I don't know that but I think that intentionality can include authenticity,
Mhm.
right? Like if you decide I'm going to be somebody, if you're an introvert and you decide you're going to be Tony Robbins at work, and you're going to try and manage impressions to get them to think that you're something that's miles from who you are,
Yeah.
you're going to be miserable.
Mhm.
But I do think that if you want to be an executive, you've got to find a way to influence at the highest levels. And that's going to require, you know what I mean? So it's like, you kind of have to figure out like, how do you get the result you want? and still have, be tethered to authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. I think credibility oftentimes requires impression management,
Hmm.
but trust over time requires consistency.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
again, I think I, I think that there's some flavor of that can be very helpful and beneficial
Hmm.
to a professional or leader earlier on.
Hmm.
But if that, if there's a constant maintenance of that impression management over time, and then inevitably there's going to be a day or a project where someone sees a crack,
Yeah.
and then that may cause them to wonder, all right, well, this is different. I wonder if Rob's just having a bad day because it seems kind of out of his personality here.
Hmm.
So if you're
Hmm.
constantly trying to manage that, that's difficult for you as a person, as we talked about before, and also can cause people to question who you are a
Right.
little bit.
Right. Yeah. If you lied about this,
Hmm.
what else are you lying about? Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the upsides of what you're talking about, it's professionalism. Um, you know, it can be helpful to garner kind of followership if you're a leader, to engage in something like, just to know your audience. Again, going back to the social intelligence um,
Hmm.
conversation we
Hmm.
were having earlier, I think a lot of upside to it. It's just the downside is those cracks. Then again, I always go back to, almost inevitably, when I'm working with people who want to maintain that, it's that desire to maintain harmony because of a fear of conflict.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other reasons why you would manage them. Like one is you want to appear competent. One is right, you want to maintain, you're trying to
Hmm.
uh, protect the other person. I mean, I'm trying to think of like when sometimes I have felt like I don't care what you all think, but I think that if I say what I actually feel or believe, then it's going to create chaos,
Yeah.
unnecessary chaos. So I better filter. I think that there's a lot of different reasons why you have to manage impressions.
Yeah. I think what you're talking
Mhm.
about there is, one of my pet peeves is how some in pop culture have bastardized what it means to be authentic
Mhm.
and equate it to, I am who I want to be all the time in any situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
That's
like
not
that.
that's not what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can do that, and maybe that is authentic, but um, you're going to burn a lot of bridges. There's going to be a sizable number of people who don't want to be around people like that.
Mhm.
And then again, you go back to the self-righteous. All right, well, so by being that way, what you're signaling is, this is the way to be.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm trying to think through that. What's the comeback to that? Because you're right, that is not good, and I don't even think it's authentic, right?
Right.
Because authentically you is not to destroy relationship.
Yeah.
You don't authentically want people to hate you,
No. Yeah.
right? But you're allowing your lack of self-control, your unwillingness to manage impressions to destroy your relationships.
Right.
That's where that goes, is a really negative outcome.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's again, it's just dialing what's important to you, your values, up or down a little bit, depending
Mhm.
upon the situation and what your goal is.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
your goal is just to bulldoze, then all right, well, be whoever you want to be exactly who you are all the time. And
Yeah.
that's, you're going to achieve your goal in that situation. But I don't think
Yeah.
for the average person, that's their goal.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think at work, in addition to conflict, there is, yeah, that desire just to show up in a way that you think other people want to see.
Mhm.
So I think in this organization, leadership looks like this. So I'm going to try to show up this way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And maybe for a while that's okay. Again, the fake it till you make it. And then slowly over time, you start to, make some shifts or broaden your leadership style or approach there a little bit. Um, again, I think it can be okay, but yeah, it can also cause people just to question who you are and your values.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Last situation, authenticity in social media.
I think I am not authentic there. What do you think?
I think
Or
you think you're not authentic?
I think I'm. I think I'm. I think I'm. No, I'm. I am. I am intentionally. I think I am in. I think the brand that I want to have, like as a voice in social media, is one that is authentic. But I think I operate within a narrow scope because I do worry about like where things go or how it's perceived. There's no room for
Oh, sure.
nuance on the internet, so I do feel like I don't I filter more than I would like to.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really fun to be able to say like whatever the fuck you want and there's no consequence to
Yeah.
it. It'd be really like it'd be so fun. And we would both be immediately fired
Yeah.
and it would be a disaster. You know what I mean?
I was thinking like, before we hit the record button, you and I will usually talk for like 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes just to prep for,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just to, give each other an update. Can you imagine if we hit record as soon as we turned on our cameras?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
We'd be very authentic.
yeah. Yeah. But isn't that the yes, and people would have there would be some hurt feelings as a consequence of that.
Hurt feelings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be
It's
bad.
right. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's even going back to the authenticity. It's like, well, there's no point to that.
Yeah. Well, but if you're a viewer of this podcast, I bet you that they would all rather they'd like to hear that part. That's the thing. There's an attraction to
Yeah. That
the
unfiltered.
what's the unfiltered.
Yeah. It's
What
almost,
it's a weird dynamic. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's almost like it's a bit, like you're getting a peek into like who someone actually is versus their
Hmm.
curated self.
Hmm.
Like it's a bit voyeuristic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, and to your point, I think you're. See, I'm surprised you said. I think you are fairly authentic. I think like my experience of you here on this
Yeah.
show is not markedly different than my experience of you in life. And I think the types of things that you'll say are
Y-
different. But yeah, this
yes.
is a public forum. Again, you talk about
Yeah.
there's no nuance. I think
Yeah.
some of the comments that we get in our episodes demonstrates that even though we are fairly intentional about what we do or do not say, there's
Right.
lots of conclusions that people jump to and things like that, which is
Yeah.
again a normal
Yeah.
human action to take.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
find you fairly authentic. But I think there are many on the internet, again, having a conversation over the weekend, where someone's social media posts and how they demonstrate to the world what their life is, and then the reality of their life,
Hmm.
fairly different.
It's like miles apart. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's true. I think I do, and I think you do. Our conversations. That's an interesting thing about like before the camera turns on. What does it look like?
Yeah.
I think the tone and tenor of our conversation is actually very similar.
It is.
There are topics that maybe are that we would talk about it differently.
Correct.
But the way I would still make the chicken breast joke.
Yes.
Like that's a. You're right.
It's a very David type of comment to make.
Yeah.
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 But I think in social media of the three, I think it is. I don't know if I believe this. I was going to say I think it's probably where people are managing impression most. I don't think that's right. I think it's where people are least authentic.
Hmm.
But I say that out loud. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's more just my emotional reaction to social media, probably clouding my judgment there a little bit. But it just the shit out there the performative shit around how awesome my life is, or the shit that people put on there just to get views and clicks and money and that type of stuff. It's like more than half the shit that's out there, I feel is
Hmm.
a complete lie
Hmm.
for some sort of monetary or fame gain.
Yeah. I know we're almost out of time, but I think this is an interesting maybe ending to this. New Year's Eve, I think it was, the CEO of Instagram came out and had like a really long post about the future of social media, the future of Instagram. and he said that the amount of AI slop and the quality of AI in like camera or film editing and picture editing and the quality of the actual cameras no longer doesn't make it. No longer is there going to be value in a beautiful picture or a compelling a GIF. And no longer is professionalism going to the perfect will no longer be valuable. What will be valuable is authenticity. And he predicts that in the next couple of years, we see a massive shift away from the perfect because anybody can do perfect
Yeah.
using AI. But what we really want is to see some dude in his basement venting about X, Y, or like you people are going to be more drawn to authenticity than impression management
Yeah.
in the future.
I think my initial instinct is I like that. However, there's so many people who post shit, and I'm like, well, God, everyone has an opinion. That doesn't mean it's an opinion that others should hear.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I mean, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
That I mean, that is something that is difficult to curate.
Yeah.
I mean, you people do it, right? It can be a curated authenticity, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Um, like I think about that with a lot of like political players and politicians. I think a lot of that is curated authenticity.
Mhm. Yes. Oh,
Um,
for sure.
but yeah, I can definitely see that the appetite for that, and even for me personally, the appetite for that is stronger now
Mhm.
than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Me same. I don't know how to do it, but I mean, I would love to like if there was an app where I knew you had to be like there's a way to like get screen out the bullshit, I would love that app.
Yeah,
You know? Like if
yeah, I
there
would
was
too.
I don't know how you would do that, but
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm sure it'll come at some point.
Yeah.
All right, I want to leave with a tip. So you're working with someone,
Mhm.
a leader, let's say, so in an organizational setting, who struggles to manage impressions of them. One or two suggestions you would have.
Hmm. Let me just ask let me give myself more time by asking a question. I feel when I'm working with them, do I feel like they're managing impressions too much? Like they're not authentic or they're putting no effort into managing impressions and they need to think about how they're showing up.
I think my I was gonna ask you both questions, but like on both sides of the continuum. But the first one was someone who doesn't understand the value of doing it. I'm me, and I'm me
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Why is that a bad thing?
I think I would say something like, um, I would try to get them to think about the like the what is the consequence of that?
Hmm.
Meaning, like, what is the result you're looking for? Because I think people get lost in the this is who I am or this is what I like and why do I have to change? And you can get like you can burn a lot of calories like trying to convince somebody that they should do this. And it's better to say like, look, you do it however you want to do it. The reality is that you need to influence XYZ your person, or you need to get XYZ person to believe in you
Yep.
or whatever. You need to learn how to interact with the executive team, let's just say, or you need to
Yep.
whatever investors. And then I try to say to them, the there's different strategies you can use to influence. The I am likable and you should trust me because you know me, or you should trust me because I am me and I'm transparent. And this like real cavalier, casual style requires that people have a lot of exposure to you and know you
Yep.
when you're
Yeah, I like
influencing
that.
in a business, the people that you're trying to influence oftentimes do or have very limited exposure to you.
Yep.
So it's a really bad strategy to be like, "I'm me. I hope you trust me." It's
Yeah, and
much
they're like,
better to
"Who the
say,
fuck are you?"
yeah, right. It's much better to demonstrate that you are diligent and whatever. You're an expert. It's better to manage the impression because that's all that they're going to see.
Right, that builds credibility.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think you mentioned that before, right? Credibility is faster
Mhm.
than is relationship development.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah, I was
What
gonna
about you?
say the same thing. Goals.
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you that you should or you shouldn't. how does being you, how it historically has that helped,
Yeah.
and how will it help you in this situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
With with the assumption being that I imagine they will come up or identify situations in which being themselves has
Mhm.
not helped them achieve a work related goal.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let's go to the other side. Someone who does it too much, someone who's hyper aware of how they're coming across, how people are evaluating them.
I think that's like relatively easier to like coach because I would just say something like, "I feel like I don't know you. Hey, we've had X number of meetings and I don't know anything. I don't really know how you feel. I feel like there's a distance between us because you're always trying to look polished and professional. You're always trying to create this like idea that you're flawless and you're not. And I'll like express how it makes me feel.
Hmm.
When you do that, I feel less connected to you. I feel insecure about how I'm showing up. I oftentimes will talk about the difference between, um, if someone's, always wearing, like, always seems super polished and the room's perfect and their dress is perfect. I'll say like that. I feel like I'm really slovenly and disorganized and chaotic next to you because you always present like you're perfect. And
Hmm.
though usually that's like a kind of a paradoxical intervention. They'll say, I'm
Yeah.
not perfect. Here's the chaos in and I'll say like, why don't you share more of that?
That's good. I don't think I've ever
What about
done
you?
that. I like that paradoxical intervention where it allows them essentially what you're doing there is you're almost in a way to defend them, to
Yeah.
defend themselves.
Yes. They'll share more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they share more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I kind of do a similar thing that I mentioned before is all right, well, how has that helped you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Usually what I find with people who are hyper aware is it's very stress inducing for them because
Mhm.
they're or
Mhm.
anxiety invoking. Like, all right,
Mhm.
well, I had to show up this way. I had to look very prim and proper.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had to speak a certain way. I have to do that. And then I'll say, all right, well, tell me leaders that you look up to. Is that how they show up? Sometimes they do,
Yeah.
right? They're trying to act a certain way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I'll say, well, and this has come up with some people I've worked with before, and they'll usually describe people who are very successful, but they will wear like a suit. They're very well coiffed. They're very well spoken.
Mhm.
They do a lot of just this one guy that I worked with. Like the leader doesn't say much. He just takes a lot in. So I just do this a lot, and I'm like, oh, okay. That's not.
Yeah.
Do you see the
Nobody.
feedback that people feel like you're not executing on anything and that you
Yeah.
don't listen?
Yeah.
That's not very helpful.
Yeah. This is not working.
No, it's not working.
Yeah.
Um, so usually then I'll just try to share, well, hey, there are thousands of ways to be an effective leader.
Mhm. Right.
Let's try to identify a way that's less work for you, right? It kind of goes back to the authenticity while still achieving your goals.
Yeah.
Why do you think that being a little bit more naturally you is not going to help you achieve these goals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they share
Mhm.
experiences where that's not the case, but
Mhm.
and
That's
that's
good
helpful
though.
to
Yeah.
work through. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like a very linear progression.
that's
This
right.
doesn't work, right?
Yeah. All right, man. That's
Perfect.
what I have for you.
Awesome, Rob. Well done.
Thank you. If you want to hear more of this, please follow us on the social media platforms. Ironically, we are at Shrink Space Show everywhere. If you have ideas for us, we've gotten a few ideas. Thank you for those who have sent ideas. Continue sharing them with us at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com.
Awesome. I was trying to think of some clever way to wrap in impression management here, but I couldn't do it.
I should have thought of
But
that too.
all right. Thank you, Rob.
Later.